You're listening to the Business Breakfast Dubai 103.8. 21 minutes past 7 on the Business Breakfast. Here's what's happening on the markets.
The markets on Dubai 103.8.
Stock market's doing really well. Live trading in Asia, I can tell you that most of the main markets are gaining right now. For example, in Tokyo, the Nikkei is up by 1.5% almost. Similar story overnight on Wall Street. Stock market's doing well.
24 karat magic.
Commodities
On the Business Breakfast.
Yeah, similar story in oil this morning, 73.29 for Brent, and those prices are rising on the back of Omicron fears easing. However, sentiment still seems to be one of caution. We do have the Saudi prices for Asia rising. It is, of course, coming up to the Chinese Lunar New Year, so you've got increased demand from China, but Chinese borders, of course, still closed, cross-province travel banned, so a question mark about how much of that demand is really there.
You're listening to the Business Breakfast on Dubai Eye on One.
Your official radio broadcaster of Expo 2020 Dubai.
Where this morning we are talking about your pay packet. It is salary survey season, and we are joined by Trefor Murphy, founder and CEO of the recruitment company Cooper Fitch. Trefor, it's lovely to have you in the studio. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks, Brandy.
Let's start with your headline figure there. You're predicting an average of 3% in terms of pay rises for 2022. What's that on the back of?
Look, I think in principle, we're going to see a very busy year next year from a recruitment point of view. Job numbers over the last number of quarters have gone up significantly. I think it's probably less than we expected to happen in the year, but that's what the respondents of over 600 people have said, that they see a 3% increase. We feel it probably could be more 5 to 6% for the year ahead. I guess what's softening that a little bit is we've got a lot of people that want to stay here, want to continue to be in the UAE, and that's going to soften things as on the salary side of things.
Yeah, which is the bit that I find really curious here. So we had one of your counterparts, David McKenzie, sitting in that exact same chair that you are in at the moment, a couple of weeks ago, saying that there was a struggle to find the right talent in some areas, and that employers were doing what it took to get the right people. Are we not seeing some salaries rise on the back of that talent crunch, that labour crunch?
We sure are. I mean, I think 3% again is what's come back from the organisations based here. We are seeing increases already this year of double digit, 10, 12, 15%. In some acute areas, significantly ahead of that. I think, and they're well noted, all the technology side of things, all the consulting pieces, all the new digital AI, machine learning stuff is all hugely buoyant out here. And the UAE have positioned itself as a significant hub for those areas. So there's a huge demand there. But I think we're talking about the overall, we're talking about everything from kind of every sector that operates out here. And again, I'm quite surprised on the 3% number, but that's the data, and I think it's probably a safe conservative number for next year.
Yeah, and as you say, that's what people have told you, and it's also an average. So, tech and consultancy pushing wages up at one end. What areas is bringing that average down?
So I guess, look, I think real estate still, whilst it's picked up and numbers are better, sales numbers are better, less projects probably makes sense in many regards, but that side is still pretty soft, and that's a big space. Retail is improving, but still probably still coming out of it, trying to get back to its previous numbers. We probably see, other sectors a little bit softer, but improving. So FMCG's and manufacturing has had a significant improvement in the last 2 quarters particularly. So, but they're still a little bit softer than they were previously. So I think overall, I think it's a very decent number, a very fair number to look at. But there's certainly going to be spikes, even ahead of reasonably low double-digit numbers. I think there's some areas that will really spike through that number.
One of the other big surprises of this survey was out of those that you spoke to, 37%, so just over a third, said that they weren't going to increase salaries at all, it was going to be flat. And 19%, so 1 in 5, 20%, said that they would be decreasing salaries next year.
Very surprising. I mean, honestly, we put that down to the ever-shifting demand for services and organisations that are not changing quickly enough to satisfy that demand. We're very surprised at the 37% number. We're also equally surprised that there are a significant percentage of organisations that are going to reduce headcount for next year. And we see next year in the UAE being a very, very strong year in the jobs market, probably ahead of anything we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And there's very good fundamental reasons for that. So, yeah, very surprising. I guess organizations do peak and plateau and drop down. It's just a normal economic cycle, I guess, of organizations. And we've got a lot of organizations that are going to struggle, I think.
What about employees and how they can cope? 43% of people have said, yep, we'll be increasing salaries in 2022 in your survey. That is less than half. If we are seeing a non-transitory inflationary spike, it's running at about 4.2% in the UK, for example. Is there a tipping point where people say, I just can't make these numbers work?
For employees?
Yeah.
Look, I think there is. I think if nearly half are increasing, and then we've got probably I think it's just above 80% will either keep salaries the same or increase. I think you've got options. I think employees have got options to look at outside of their current organisation. If they're not performing at a level that is within market for the space that they're in, I think they've got options to look outside of where they are.
Because we know what's happening to rents at the moment. Every single rental survey that we've looked at for the last year, I think, has just talked about them increasing. If your salary stays flat, you're actually ending up with less money, aren't you? Less spending power.
Yeah, you sure are. I mean, I think obviously the rental amounts or rental pay has been significantly less than where we've all seen it for people that have been out here for many years. And it's probably catching up or going ahead of where it was previously. But yeah, no, for sure. And even a 3% increase is not going to get you there in terms of the cost of living increases that are happening at the moment.
So do you expect then, I mean, you say people have got more options, they can look outside your company, so move around. Are you expecting to see more churn next year? Are you expecting to see more people change jobs?
I think in some spaces, certainly. So you've got segments that are all doing well. So if you take something like AI or like, let's take AI, for example. All firms in that space are already paying very good salaries off international benchmarking, and are also increasing quite significantly to keep up in that space. The challenge is if you're in a space that's quieter or is less buoyant, and you want to move to compensate for that higher cost of living, that's going to be difficult because there may not be as much opportunities in that particular vertical or market space. So, I mean, there are going to be better opportunities next year, more of them, but I think we see a lot of people from real estate, for example, moving outside of the UAE into places like Saudi Arabia and even back into Qatar again. So the options in some areas might be to move within the Gulf, and other options would be to move within Dubai or across to UAE.
Well, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Trefor Murphy is the founder and CEO of the recruitment company Cooper Fitch, talking us through their latest salary survey, speaking to 600 employers about what they plan to do with pay this year. 43%, less than half, say that pay will rise. We're looking at an average pay rise, according to the survey here in the UAE, of 3%. Loads of messages coming in from people talking about why they think we might be seeing some wage cuts. Others saying that salary cuts from 2020 in their companies haven't yet been made up. Let us know your experience, 4001, or use the app.
This is the Business Breakfast on Dubai Eye on 1.
With Canadian Specialist Hospital in Abu